Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today I want to walk through how I made this medium-sized tote bag. So if you want to find out how, stick around for the video. I made this a while ago for my wife, not this bag, but one just like it. It's kind of a medium-sized tote bag or a large purse, and she gets comments on it all the time. So I needed to make another one so I could generate a pattern. When I made my wife's, I was kind of just freestyling, so it wasn't super reproducible. I brought it out to the shop though and measured it all up so that I could make a copy of that bag. And then I was able to make a pattern as well. So now I can crank these out. If people ask, I am able to make them for them. So I'm excited about that. And I really like this bag. My wife loves this bag and I really enjoy making it. So stick around and I'll show you how I did it. See you after the video. I started out by marking the outline of the bag. Now this is one of the trickiest parts because the whole thing hinges on getting this shape just right. It needs to be square. So that's why you'll see I'm taking my time. It's obviously sped up, but in reality, I'm taking my time making sure to get this thing perfectly square. After I got the body of the bag cut out, I moved on and cut out some pieces for pockets. One small 7x7 square for the inside phone pocket, and then one bigger pocket for the outside. I like to punch holes on the inside corners of any right angle or any narrow angle that's going to have a little bit of stress, just so that the leather doesn't start to tear as the bag gets used over time and in the future. After I got those things done, I moved on to start skiving the edges of my pockets. This is going to mean that the edge of the pocket lays a lot closer to the leather, and it ends up just kind of having a little bit lower profile, and I think gives it just a better professional look. I applied some Tote, which is a burnishing wax, to the edges of the body of the bag and then also to the pockets, and then I used a wood burnisher to just rub all that in. The friction of the burnisher melts that and gives a nice glassy edge to the leather. I moved on to start gluing on the pockets to the body of the bag. This square one is the one that goes inside the bag. That is just pretty much going to hold a cell phone. You can hang your sunglasses on it just to keep them out of the bottom of the bag, but it's a fairly small pocket in general. You want to throw glue on both surfaces, and then I rub that in with my finger, and then I just smash it with a hammer. With contact cement, you want to do that to activate the glue. For this cement I'm using now, I just do that so that it gets kind of smushed into all the grains. Then I used a spreader gauge to mark my stitch line, like always, just so that I have a nice, even, well-spaced stitch line. After this, the weather was getting crazy. I'm in Southern California. We do not get rain like this, but I had to go open my shop door, look outside to see what was happening out there. I've got that tin roof on, and it gets really loud in the shop when it rains that hard. I came back in and used my stitching irons to start marking out and poking the holes for my stitch lines, and then I sewed the pockets onto the main body of the bag. I'm using a saddle stitch. It's just a traditional, super straightforward, crazy strong stitch. When you use a saddle stitch, if one stitch was to break, it's not the end of the world. The whole thing isn't going to come unraveled like a machine stitch would. And so that's why I really like hand stitching all of my stuff. It keeps things really strong and durable. After I sewed the inside pocket onto the body of the bag, I then marked and stitched my main large kind of outside pocket onto the bag. And you can see the original bag actually in the background of this shot right here. That's that darker brown, that cocoa brown that I use. Once I stitched the main pocket on, I used a hammer to just tap in all of my stitch lines to kind of smush that waxed thread in to make those look nice and neat. And then I used a really coarse sandpaper to scuff up the edges of the body of the bag. This is where I'm going to apply glue that's going to hold just until I can finish stitching. So I glued those edges, marked my line for my stitching, and then of course it was back to the good old pricking irons. Going all the way down the edge of the bag takes a lot of time when you just have a little pricking iron like this. Maybe someday I'll get like a 12-hole one or something like that. But for this, you know, the magic of iMovie means it can go nice and quick. After those lines were poked out, I just went ahead and hand stitched the whole thing, went all the way down the line, back stitched a couple times, clipped that thread, and then melt those ends so that they don't start pulling through. Again, this saddle stitch is something that's going to last probably pretty much forever on a tote bag like this. After the main side edges were sewed, I had to kind of crunch that mouth together closed. This is going to be the bottom corner of the bag. It's kind of challenging to get the shape just right, but then once you do, you can sew it and it feels really good once it's all kind of locked in and secure. After it's all secure, it's nicely stitched, I get to my favorite part of any bag build, which is flipping it inside out. This pretty much means the bag is done. I obviously still have to add straps here because I was missing some hardware at an earlier step. Otherwise, I would have had the straps on already. But the flipping inside out part is so satisfying to me. You just get to kind of crunch it and smush it. It's this thing you've been working hard on, and you don't have to treat it all that gently. You do see if I'm reaching inside, I guess you don't see it because my hand's inside the bag, but I use a closed fist because I don't want my fingernails to mark up what will be the outside of the bag and scratch it all up. So I got it all flipped out, and boom, started to see the bag taking shape. All that's left is the straps now. So I went over and I started cutting out my straps. I did kind of what, all the expert, super awesome craftsmen do, and got on top of the table, started crawling around on it. I just couldn't quite reach the whole distance in order to cut out these straps. But I'm doing 2 straps on this bag so that they'll be able to come together in the hand or over the shoulder. And then I broke out my edge beveler. It's kind of like a manual router for wood or something like that. It just bevels that edge. And then I used a template that I had made to mark holes for where I was going to rivet these straps onto the body of the bag. I used a punch just to knock out those holes, and then I used the same punch as well as my mallet to mark those holes over on the actual bag itself. And then I came back for a second round and punched them all the way out. And then it was time to rivet. These rivets are pop rivets. You've got this piece with the post in it, and that'll go through the hole, and then that goes through the other layer of leather, and then you're going to back it up with this little cap that pops on the back. These pop rivets are really easy. They're really convenient. I like using them a lot. They're not quite as solid as a solid rivet. They're not quite as durable, but they really do the job, and that's why I've got 4 of them on each of these connection points anyway. This is how I'm going to use, or this is what I'm going to use to set these rivets. It's a little anvil with a post that is just going to kind of crunch them together. That post has a concave head on it, and you just line it up over the rivet, boom, 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 and it is set. Super secure, and these things aren't going anywhere. It was 24 rivets for the whole bag, but I got it all done. All right, that's that. That's how I made this tote bag. Thank you so much for sticking around watching the video. If you're a leather worker and you have more experience than I do, I'm kind of just getting started here. So if you have any wisdom, you see something, you're like, whoa, he needs to know there is a better way of doing that, please let me know. I am all ears. And I really appreciate the support. If you're not a leather worker and you're just watching me make leather stuff, thanks for checking it out because I'm having a blast with it, and I hope it's at least a little bit educational or entertaining. We'll see you in the next one.